Hey, wait, you cannot write Jamb 2026 without watching this video because Jamb has been repeating these questions for over the years based on trend. And this is what I've been using for my students and they are matching 90 and above. If this is your first time tuning, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notification because you have a lot to gain. With no further ado, let's get right into the video. Question 1. Which of the following is not a fundamental unit? Option A, meters. Option B, amperes. Option C, Kelvin. Option D, radian. Now what you ask yourself is this: what are fundamental units and what are fundamental quantities, right? So fundamental quantities, they do not depend on any quantity, they are on their own. So their units are said to be fundamental units, right? So we have some examples of fundamental quantities. Meter is a fundamental unit and each quantity is what? Is length. Ampere is a fundamental unit and its quantity is current. Kelvin is a fundamental unit and its quantity is temperature, right? But radian is an angle and radian is gotten from angular velocity multiplied by t. Just like saying that omega is theta over t, right? This is the what? The angle. So if you want to get it, you're going to say omega what? T, right? So this is a derived quantity. So since it's a derived quantity, so each unit is going to be a derived unit. So this is the only one that is not a fundamental unit. Is that clear? So the answer is option D. Question 2. What is the reading of the vernier caliper shown below? We have the following options. So you're going to use this diagram to take the reading of this vernier caliper. Now before we can take the reading, you should note that this vernier caliper has a reading accuracy of 0.01 centimeters, right? I'm used to measure the length of some instruments. Now how do we read it? Now we can note that from here to here, this is 1 centimeter and this is 2 centimeter. This vernier caliper has two scales, right? So this up part is what we say what? The main scale. Why this is what? This down part is the vernier scale. So for us to take the reading, we are going to add it. We are going to add both the main scale and the vernier scale. So we'll go this way. The main scale starting from 1, right? This is 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Now at this point, we saw this is vernier scale, right? This is vernier scale. So at this point, the reading of the main scale is going to end here, which is 1.3 centimeter. Okay? Now, coming to the vernier scale, we are going to count onto a point whereby there is a line connecting the vernier scale and the main scale as if it's a straight line. Okay? We are not going to count this first one because it is this line that connects the main scale and the vernier scale, right? We're going to start the counting of the vernier scale from the second line, right? Now we're going to count this way. Now for the vernier scale, it started from here, right? So I'm not going to count this first line because it is this line that connects the main scale and the vernier scale, right? So we're going to start the counting of the vernier scale from this line, right? So we start counting until we get to a point whereby the line on the main scale and the vernier scale is as if it's a straight line, okay? So we'll go this way. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Look at it. On this ninth one is now a straight line between what? The main scale and what? The vernier scale. So we record that vernier scale is equals what? 9, right? Now we multiply that 9 by the reading accuracy of vernier caliper, which is we multiply by 0.01 centimeter, right? Which gave us 0.09 centimeter. Okay? We now add what we have. So we'll say 1.3 plus 0.09, which gave rise to 1.39 centimeter. Is that clear? So this is how to take reading on the vernier caliper, right? So the correct option to this question is option C. Question 3. A body of mass 4 kg resting on a smooth horizontal plane is simultaneously acted upon by two perpendicular forces, 6 Newton and 8 Newton. Calculate the acceleration of the motion. We have the following options, right? So the question says a body of mass 4 kg. So the mass is 4 kg. That is the mass of the body, right? But the mass is being acted upon simultaneously by two perpendicular forces. Once you hear perpendicular, that means they are inclined at right angle to each other, right? We have two forces. This one is 6 Newton. This one is 8 Newton. That means they are at right angle. Okay? So what we need to do is for us to solve for the resultant force. Using Pythagoras theorem, right? This is the resultant force. I'm going to say that R square is equals to F1 square plus F2 square, right? So R square is equals to 6 square plus 8 square. R square is equals to 36 plus 64 which will give me what? 100. Then R, you say root of 100. What do I have? I have 10 Newton, right? Now from what we've got to remember that from second law of motion, the force is equals to mass times acceleration, okay? So what is the force? This is what I have. That's the resultant force, right? So I have 10 is equals to the mass is 4 multiplied by what? A. Therefore, the acceleration is 10 over 4, of which by the time you divide, it's going to have the answer to be 2.5 meters per second square. Now look at this question closely. You cannot realize that they do not just want you to solve for the acceleration straight, right? You need to solve and get the resultant force. Vectors inclined at right angle. I hope that is clear. Now from what we've done so far, the correct option to this question is option A. Question 4. A body starts from rest and moves with uniform acceleration of 6 meters per second square. What distance does this cover in the third second? Now we have the following options. So let's just quickly solve the question. Once you hear that a body starts from rest, automatically its initial velocity u equals what? 0. And it moves with uniform acceleration. That means A is equals to 6 meters per second square, right? What distance does this cover? You're looking for x. Okay, in the third second. So if you hear the word third second, it means you're going to find the distance when the time is 3 and also find the distance when the time is 2, right? So we're going to say time is equals to 3 seconds and also time is equals to 2 seconds, right? Now using this equation, x is equals to ut plus half at square, right? So my x is equals to u is equals to 0, right? So automatically everything here becomes what? 0. Then plus 1 over 2 times, what is my a? My a is 6. That is 6 times. Okay, then coming to the time, I'm going to say this is 3 square minus 2 square. So this will give me a short method instead of solving them separately with different time, right? Okay, so this is x is equals to 2 can cancel itself to give us 1. 2 can cancel 6 to give us what? 3, right? So this is 3 bracket 3 square is 9. I'll say 9 minus 2 square is 4. I'll say what? 4, right? So this is 3 brackets 9 minus 4 is going to give me 5. And by the time I multiply, my distance is equals to what? 15 meters. Is that clear? Now this is how we can solve this type of problem. Even if they say in the next 5th second, that is, I'm going to solve when time is 5, I'm going to solve when time is 4, then subtract it together, right? So better still solve it this way to give you a very short method to the answer. Is that clear? What we've done so far, the correct option to this question is option A. Question 5. The diagram below shows a velocity time graph representing the motion of a car. Find the total distance covered during the acceleration and the retardation period of the motion. Now, one thing you must note is this. You must note that this question we are asked to find the total distance covered between this acceleration and what? Deceleration. Now, which one is acceleration? This is from here to here is what? Acceleration, right? Why this is what? Deceleration. I know you'll be asking, why did I put A here? Deceleration is still acceleration, but in a negative direction, okay? So in a nutshell, we can say that deceleration is a negative of what? Acceleration. Hope that is clear. So for us to get the distance, this is what? This is a triangle. This is also a triangle, right? And the formula for a triangle, which I'm going to use for the distance, is half base times height. So for this acceleration, we say for acceleration, this is what? Half base times height. Now, what is the base? What is the base? The base is 10, right? And the height is also what? 10. You can even trace it to this point. The height is what? 10. So this is 1 over 2 times the base, which is 10, then times what? Height, which is also 10, right? By the time you cancel, you're going to have what? 5. The acceleration is equals to 50 meters per second square, right? Now let us also find the deceleration. In deceleration, we also say that A is equals to half base times what? Height, right? Now this is 1 over 2 times, what is my base? Look at it, this is 40, this is 50, right? So this is in between, right? The body ended at in between, the body comes to rest in between 40 and 50, that is at 45, right? So the difference between 45 and 50, this is 45. The difference is what? 5, right? So I'm going to say this is 5, right? Times, the height is the same, right? The height is the same, which is what? 10. I'll say times 10, what do I have? I cancel this to give me what? 5. So this is going to be what? 25 meters per second square. Okay, so looking for the total distance between them. So it's going to be 50 plus 25. That gave rise to 75 meters per second square. Is that clear? All right, so this is how to solve this particular question. Question 6. The impulse or the force is deducted from Newton's second law as what? We have the following options. Now you must ask yourself, what's Newton's second law? Now Newton's second law states that what? F is equals to mv minus mu, right? Over t. Okay, that means we are going to say that F is equals to m, you bring out v minus u all over t. Okay, right? Now for us to do that, this is equals to impulse. I can also say that ft is equals to mv minus mu, right, as my impulse. But then because there's nothing this way and this is the only thing we have in the option, now we're going to choose option B as the correct answer, because with this we can also say that impulse is associated with change in what? Momentum, with this formula. In case you see a question like this, impulse is equal to change in momentum. I hope that is clear. Question 7. An object moves in a circular path of radius 0.5 meters with a speed of 1 meter per second. What is its angular velocity? You must note that the angular velocity omega is what we are looking for, right? Okay, but we are given a radius r to be 0.5. As a relationship connecting these three quantities, they are what? V is equals to omega r. Now making this the subject, I'm going to have that omega is what? V over r, right? Now we can solve it by saying that my V is 1 divided by 0.5, right? We all know that 0.5 is the same thing as what? 1 over what? 2. Now this is the same thing as 1 divided by 1 over 2, right? Which is the same thing as 1 times 2 over 1, right? Which is going to give me 2 radian per second. Okay, now this is how to solve it. If you are given such a question like this, we can solve it this way. What we've gotten so far, the correct option to this question is option C. Question 8. The addition of impurities to a pure semiconductor in order to enhance its conductivity is called option A, doping, option B, slagging, option C, drugging, option D, ionization. So the correct option to this question is A, which is what? Doping. Doping is the process of adding an impurity to a semiconductor to improve its conductivity. Question 9. If a light wave has a wavelength of 500 nanometer in air, what is the frequency of the wave? We have the speed of light to be 3 times 10⁸ meters per second. Alright, so one thing you need to know is that stating the parameters, the wavelength is given as 500 nanometer. Like I told in my previous video, if you see something that is attached to a unit, it means something in physics, okay? Don't just remove it or don't just ignore it. You have to do what? Bring it out and put in the value. So this nano means 10 raised to the power of minus 9. So this is 500 times 10 raised to the power of minus 9, okay, meters. By the time you multiply, you have this is 5 times 10 raised to the power minus 7 meters, okay. Then we are given the speed of light to be 3 times 10 raised to the power 8 meters per second. What are we looking for? The frequency, which is what? F. And going by the formula, V is equals to F lambda. Then making it the subject, F is equals to V over lambda, right? Let's just put in the values. So we have this is 3 times 10 raised to the power of 8 divided by 5 times 10 raised to the power of what? Minus 7. Okay? So what we are going to do is to work it out and divide, alright? So this is going to be F is equals to, I can say this is 30 times 10 raised to the power 7, then times what? I'll carry this power minus 7 up, going to give me times 10 raised to the power 7, okay? So I'll divide only by 5. Because there is no calculator here, so I try as much as I can to work it without calculator. I know you'll be like, what did I do? I just have to remove 10 from here to make it to reduce it to power what? 7. Okay, so here will be 30, so I can divide 30 by 5. It's going to give me what? 6, right? So I will now have to add the powers. That is 7 plus 7 to give me 14 pace. Now this is how to solve a problem like this. Okay, what I did was to convert this nanometer, remove this nano, because nano means 10 to the power of minus 9, and I got the values to be 5 times 10 to the power of minus 7 meters, right? With the speed of light given, I made frequency the subject, and it gave me 6 times 10 to the power of 14 Hz. And from what we've done so far, the correct option to this question is option C. Question 10. What is the best method of demagnetizing a steel bar magnet? Option A, hammering. Option B, heating. Option C, rough handling it. Option D, solenoid method. We all know that the best method to demagnetize a magnet is by solenoid method, which is option D. Question 11. A man standing in front of a wall blows a whistle and hears the echo after 3 seconds. How far is he from the wall? We are given the speed of sound in air as 330 meters per second. And we have the following options. Now you must understand that once it comes to echo, the velocity of the echo is twice the distance, right? Now the velocity is 2 times the distance over what? Time, right? Now the man hears the echo 3 seconds later. That means we have the time and we are looking for distance, right? So the speed of sound in air is 330. So let's solve. This is 330 over 1 is equals to 2 times x over 3, right? We are going to do cross multiply. If we do cross multiply, I have 2x is equals to 330 times what? 3, right? So that means x is equals to 330 times 3 all over what? 2, right? Alright, so if 2 divide 3, it's going to give me 165, right? By the time I multiply by 3, I'm going to have 495 meters, right? Now, this is how to solve this type of question. You must understand that for echo, the distance traveled is twice, so you must not forget. Now, from what we've done so far, the correct option to the question is option B. Question 12. In a series resonance circuit, the current flowing in the circuit is what? Option A, maximum. Option B, minimum. Option C, 0. Option D, unaffected. So at resonance, you must note that the current is maximum, okay? And also at resonance, VC equals VL, right? And XC equals SL. Is that clear? So the correct option is option A. Question 13. Which of the following is an electrolyte? A, grape juice. B, sugar solution. C, alcohol. And D, paraffin. You must know that electrolytes is only solutions of acid, bases and salt. Any other ones that are not solutions of acid, bases and salt, they are not said to be electrolytes. And you must also remember that generally all organic compounds are non-electrolytes. So sugar solution, alcohol and paraffin, they are all organic compounds, so they are said to be non-electrolytes. So the only electrolyte here is what? Grape juice. Question 14. The magnitude of the angle of dip at the equator is option A, 0 degrees, option B, 90 degrees, option C, 180 degrees, option D, 360 degrees. We should know that the angle of dip at the equator is 0 degrees. That is option A. Question 15. The turn ratio of a transformer which supplies a voltage of 300 volts in the secondary coil from a primary voltage of 600 volts is what? We are looking for the turn ratio, and from the formula is number of turn in the secondary all over number of turn in the primary is equal to the EMF or the voltage of the secondary divided by voltage of what? The primary, right? Then the voltage of the secondary is given as 300 all over that of the primary is given us 600, right? So we just have to divide. We divide this, right? So this is going to give us 1 over 2, right? So 1 over 2 is equivalent to what? 0.5. So the turn ratio of this particular transformer is 0.5, right? So the correct option is option A. Thank you so much for sticking and staying to the end of this video. If this is your first time tuning, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications to get notified each time I post videos. If you want me to drop part 2 of these 40 questions, please drop in the comment section and I'll do just that. I will see you next time in the next one. Bye for now.